Welcome back to the 10,000 Hours and Counting podcast. I am here again with Bahia. We've actually gone into a part two discussion because at the end of last episode, she just brought up a theme that is so powerful for me, totally in line with my belief and experience about the inner child. And so we thought we'd talk about this a bit more because I know that there's a lot of information and courses and things out there on healing the wounded inner child. And there's a lot of focus on caring and wanting to love, but as though the child is wounded and needs to be healed. And honestly, my experience of inner child is it's like it's your original self. It's the purity that cannot be tainted. It's the strength and the wisdom and the light that actually guides my adult human self through challenges. I see it as like a guardian and a guide of the light and not needing, I think that my emotional self needs the healing, but my inner child is the guide. So Bahia is here. She plucked that idea out before in the rest of our talk, and I want to hand it over to her and say, what does this mean to you as inner child? Instead of the healing, what is the inner child to you?
Yeah. So I'm feeling just an excitement being back with you in this part too, because like just the way we kind of ended with that. And it's like there's this part of me that has always been there since I was a young girl and through all these different stages in my life. And I do agree that I'm still healing parts of my inner child, like the parts that were, hurt. And I can go into meditations and see different parts and different aspects of myself.
Mhm.
But there's the the inner child that innocence, that curiosity, that playfulness, she's always been here, like every step of the way. So we can just call her the omnipresent, the in the gene keys, it's known as the SQ. Like it's that spiritual quotient of
Yeah.
what we are. And I feel like that's held in that place inside of us, that little child that looks into the world with just pure love, pure joy, honesty, like truth. Like they're just so transparent, so fun, so loving. When we can access that part of us, you can see it in people's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that as when kids are born and I start playing with them, like as different ages of children, I can see the sparkle in their eye. And then as they get older, that light changes. And then they go through the whole mental processing and conditioning and culturaling. And then as people start to as they age and they move more into their elder years, the sparkle comes back in a new
Mm-hmm.
way, because they they did the full circle, where that beautiful energy they've been able to get through the life experiences, and then it comes back through, and they don't give a crap about anybody or anything. They say whatever's on their mind, and they're so like joyful and open and playful. And I feel like that energy, that that beautiful essence of the child, if we can all find a way to just build the bridge and connect to that part of us again, it's going to help us in this transformational journey, because they're so bold. They're just like, come on, let's go over here. Let's go see what's over here. That's
Bold
how
and
I feel.
creative. Yes, bold and creative. And I agree with you. There's an ageless wisdom in that. There's certain people that you'll meet where they've just got that spark, regardless of age, and they've got a slight, like a sense of humor. It's a levity. It's not about making fun of things or minimizing things through humor. It's an understanding that we're on this journey and we need to find. It's crazy in many ways. And so I think that in a way, the inner child, if we're talking about being multi-dimensional beings, then I think original self inner child literally is the one that would be like in the dungarees and the mud smeared face and like ready for the next adventure. And then I feel like the other parts of needing to be healed, from wounding can be present there too, but it's almost like the way they work with animals to heal other animals. They often will show you on a program that humans can do so much, but putting an animal with a different animal, the frequency can just be amazing, and the connection and the trust that is established there is incredible. So I almost feel like if you are on the journey to heal wounding from the child, that your original self will be part of that because it's got like it holds the keys and codes of everything. And your adult self might want to think about the wounding in a certain way, whereas the immediacy of the original self will sort of hold the space for healing. And there's something about when you want to or need to heal, being able to not have to necessarily, some people want to say what they need to heal, but they're still using their thinking mind. And I think that you talked about the magic of words and like the spell casting energy.
Mhm.
Sometimes people share so much in wanting to heal that I think that they create like a Jacob Marley style chain. And I think the inner child would be more likely, the original self, to get you to just make it more succinct and more immediate. And there's a freedom in that. There's something about getting out of the logical mind and asking for healing in a way that is more immediate to source and doesn't create like a pocket of more sludgy
Yeah,
energy.
completely. I'm feeling what you're sharing in this moment, because let's look at how children in their innocence move throughout the world.
Mm.
So when a child feels angry or upset, what do? They have a temper tantrum. They kick, they scream. There's no logic in it. They're just angry and frustrated. And once they move that out of their body, they're so intelligent. They're fine. And then we've been left holding the scars of that temper tantrum, going, oh my God, am I a bad parent? What did I do? What's happening? But they're completely fine because they were given permission to be their authentic selves. So I like how when you're sharing like original child, and I feel like it's the same as saying our most authentic self. Our authentic expression is the divine.
Mm.
Our authentic expression is the divine. And we will find that authentic expression in the inner child
Yeah. And it's the
because
not caring.
they know how to move about the world. They were in theta. They used creativity. They daydreamed their reality.
And they have a sense of, you talked about it before, not caring in the sense of not limiting and self-censoring, just knowing that they just are. And
Yeah.
there's something important about that. You know how it lights you up when someone can be as quirky as you like, and they're not using it as a quirky shield, because I know some people do that in the world. They push to get reactions. But the people that I love the most are the most out there in their own way, and they're just so unique, and they just are who they are, and they light you up. They just make you feel good about noticing the difference. And that's what I love about letting people be who they are naturally without a thought of should they have said that. And I think that there's so much of that. And it's a little bit like a tool, and there can be a level of mastery to it, because some people, if they hear this and we're talking about just being authentic, again, they'll think of that sort of authentic bomb where they think that saying absolutely everything or anything, any thought in their head is being truthful. And that's actually not what we're talking about. It's that essence of it. Might even not be something you say. It might just be your presence, or you just laugh at something unexpectedly because of the beauty of it. That's the simplicity and authenticity. I think we overcomplicate it sometimes.
Well, I feel like it gets overcomplicated when we move it into our mental bodies.
Hmm.
Like I really see the mental body as the one that kind of can put us in these situations where we start kind of looping,
Mm.
because now we've created a story around something, and then through that story it becomes a belief, and through that belief it becomes a habit, and from that habit it becomes our identity. The ego can be like really strong that way, but um I feel like when we are more sensory, right, and allow for ourselves to be more in tune with our physicality, in our heart space, and in that genuine place, that that authenticity shows up with such intelligence. Like, it's very different. It's
And
very different.
I like this idea of when you were saying just that being in the authentic space and what was I wanted to say? I could feel it. Something about the inner child of being able to know what it needs, kind of like, and adaptability. Thank you.
Yes, there it is. There.
Adaptability. So children, whatever their home life is, I'm not talking about abusive, but just unusual kids just accept what's happening. If a
Mhm.
parent works shift work or whatever it is, kids accept what's happening for them as life, and they don't necessarily judge it to a certain age, and they adapt around it. It's only when they go to school and someone says, "Does your mum do that?" And then there's that body freeze. But kids are
Ooh.
very adaptable, and they're able to, they actually kind of thrive on, if it's a healthy way, on change. They don't try to calcify like adults do. So I think that adaptability is a very helpful quality to receive from your inner self, to handle what's going on and to accept what it is and make it be normal for you. Like, let your normal be something that supports you. But we don't sort of think about children as being adaptable. Maybe we think of them as being, needing care, and of course they do, but they have such incredible strength, which is what you've touched on. So I'd like to think that you could work with that inner strength to help bring you healing. So it's shifting out of a victim mentality of needing healing into like an empowered reality of, I think it's almost alignment. And it's not so much healing as it is, you talked about before, like polishing, refining, receiving what we need out of victimization into standing in our sovereignty. So clearing the way for sovereignty, which is always there to shine unimpeded.
It is always there. Like that, the illusion is that we're wounded. That's the distortion. So it's
Right.
like when we have those moments, and I do a lot of healing work, and I do a lot of moving energy throughout my body, but it's because I'm clearing the distortions in my field, right?
Yep.
And I have these moments where I am in full alignment to all that I am, and I feel so alive inside of myself. I feel so playful. I feel boundless. I feel so open and curious and childlike. Like it's just this bubbly, fun, loving energy. And when I feel that in my world, and when I'm connected to her, man, those days are just magical.
Yeah, and it's when you're in that energy of like that luck energy, things just seem to flow and something happens and someone comes in and something unexpected, and it feels natural when you're in that flow state.
Yeah, but I can't hold it every day like that.
No.
That's just the reality of where we are right now. But it feels like that's the potentiality. It's like we timeline shift. Like here's the highest expression of our timeline,
Mm.
and we might be able to hold it for X amount of time. That's that expansion. But then we've got to contract back down again because there's still a bunch of density that we have to clear out of the way to make space for that. But the body also has to learn that it's also safe to be in that energy
Mm.
because of all of its conditioning. So like as we go back to that original essence, the body has to learn again, hey, wait a second, I know that energy, that's really familiar, but are we allowed to do that? Or there's rules now, like are we following the rules? Like there's like this shedding, I guess, that has to take place as we allow ourselves to kind of go back into that deeper knowing of how to play, and how to engage in life with our senses.
And how to be here as a human and a soul. Because, of course, when we were just spirit, things are immediate, there's a different sense. So there is more of a heaviness to being human, but that's the beauty of that polarity of bringing the lightness and then experiencing maybe the heavier moments as transmutation. I kind of liken it to, and I believe in people are saying this too, but it's what I'm feeling. We're in this time now to collapse timelines, like where we are now, our own timelines and what's happening on Earth. So as you say, we can't always hold that frequency because then there wouldn't be any point in Earth school at that point. Like we've got to have the frequency to understand what it is we're doing and who we are, and then bring it through in these different ways. So when we have those moments of needing to heal, it is an opportunity to release energy. So it frees up stuck and stagnant energy. So of course healing is so important, but I just hope that people can view it, as I say, without the victim, but as an opportunity for more freedom. And no matter
Mhm.
what it was or how awful it was, there is always a potential with original self, as I said, to be untainted, to have moved through that experience and have gained wisdom and more light. Actually, more light can come from having moved through darkness. And then one day that darkness, that experience, it can be for the soul that it's totally cleared and it doesn't any longer hold you down, but it's a huge stepping stone. You want to say like a divine benediction of what you've been through. And that's the healing journey. And then there'll be days on your healing journey where you're in joy, you don't mind what was the awful heaviness. And the next day, sometimes I've found the most beautiful day, the next day on the back of that can be a heavier energy, which is the integration, I believe, and the healing of layers, and then you think,
Yeah.
how can I have had one day and then the next day, what is that? It's just this sort of the expansion, contraction, and contraction not in a negative sense, but in a sense of holding that frequency and stepping into it more, actually like digesting it somehow, not just having it be influx of divine energy and then you leave the meditation class and it's not in you. So it's taking in the wisdom and integrating it to the system.
Yeah, I love that. And I often share with people, stars, they can't shine without darkness. So it's like, inside of us, we are, all of this just a void, like a space of like nothingness and allness. And so in that darkness, can we bring in light and awareness and like just showcase all of the dazzling, sparkling aspects of who we are, the uniqueness of who we are and who we came here to be. That does require us to go in and look at wounding. And I love what you say about like the whole victim mentality, because I find that um, and I want this to be received with the utmost like respect and love for people. And because I too myself, I walk through moments where I'm holding on to something and I can't quite let it go or move through it right away because it takes time. But sometimes I find that people identify
Mm.
with their victim energy, and then it kind of becomes their identity, and then they're held in that density, and all of life is just this unfortunate series of one event and one event and one event. And it's like, the vibration that we hold is the reality that we attract. So it's like, and I'm not saying that we have to bypass all of this heaviness and just be in that space, because that's also not rooted in practicality. It's about holding the contrast of it all, and knowing that you have access to this higher essence of who you are, and that to give yourself permission to invite it back. It's not that it's gone away, but just invite it back in, even if for 5 minutes a day. Like, even if you feel shy to bring it up in front of your spouse or your family or a friend, share it with yourself. Be a little quirky in your bedroom by yourself or in your bathroom, and see what it feels like to giggle with delight about something that you're allowing yourself to feel again,
Mm. Mm.
until it feels like you have the courage or the comfort to be that. Like, I have a lot of quirkiness, and I'm very different from my family. Like, I have my I'm in a blended family, but my biological daughters are 18 and 17. So you can just imagine what they think of mom. They're like, "Oh, mom, yeah, like whatever you're doing or thinking." Like, they're very much in that mental part of their development. And here I am being this joyful, playful being who's using metaphors for life and flowing, and it's driving them bonkers, because for them that's not how life works you know but I'm comfortable enough to show up as I am with my friends and my family, but I wasn't always.
Yeah.
I felt intimidated or shy, or like people wouldn't know how to receive it, or I might be too much. These
Mm.
are things that prevent people from embracing that. It's a big energy.
It's big, and also you don't always need to let it be out there in the world, but you need to honor it within you. That's right. If you are shy, but listen to it in yourself, or you laugh at something unexpected, or you love a particular movie or something, and that's your original self. So if you view it for yourself and you know this is what I love, this is my purity, then even if you're not sharing it with other people, it will be in your frequency. You don't necessarily, sometimes I'm a big believer in not sharing. There's a lot of magic in not sharing,
Mm.
but you are sharing that energetically with people. So giving yourself permission to like what you like and to heal as you need to heal and recover as you need to recover, because people often recovering from grief, when they do laugh, they feel like guilty, like the human part says shut down. But actually, the healing journey out of grief will have ups and downs and laughter at the beauty, or just like the craziness. But so we want to be, yeah, not so static really, and be open
Yeah.
to the energy. And so as terms of healing the inner child, I think it's so important to allow too what you feel, because it's all very well. And actually I've had this conversation with a parent, with my father, and I had to leave that behind. That was toxic, just emotionally toxic. And he had sort of tried to get me to have a laundry list of all the reasons that things weren't good. And I said, that's just so that you can deny all of those from your point of view. And I said, even if that wasn't what was happening, I need to take my journey as the child who experienced feelings around it, whatever the adult reason was. And I need to honor that, because people can talk till they're blue in the face to tell you why they meant something. But if it hit you in a certain way, you're doing yourself a disservice to just swallow what they've said. You need to say, fair enough, and it's not a blame game, but I have to be over here with what happened to my body, mind, emotions when that
Mm.
situation occurred. So it's giving yourself permission on your own journey, not blaming others, but also not letting them influence you into accepting or agreeing with their view. Listen to what it was for you, and then you don't have to label it. You don't have to then, as you said, identify and make it a story, but you need to honor what your feeling was, and don't tell yourself that's not valid.
Yeah, I love where this is going because um, that's, I feel like, what keeps people stuck. It's that needing or wanting for that resolution with another person versus knowing that it's always been about the self.
Mm,
Like when I have conflict with family members or with people, and I want them to see my perspective and I want them to understand where I'm coming from. I really, that's not what's important. What's important is how I feel inside, and why is that so important for me? Like,
mm,
can I find that forgiveness inside of myself while allowing for someone to have their own experience and perspective or perception? Because it's all about perception. You've perceived an experience a certain
mm,
way, and the other person, through their own unique lens, is it perceiving it from their perspective. And
mm,
so, do we allow for another person to keep us like in that state of woundedness for
hmm.
years, or do we liberate ourselves and
Yeah.
go, okay, if it's really not about you, I'm going to take accountability for myself and how I feel, and I'm going to, you know um, invite back in the divine child, or that beautiful authenticity within me, because I generate that from within. Like, that's what I can control. That's what's within my control.
Yeah. And it's
And
about the freedom to express your emotion, because people want you to have an emotion that they understand. They want it to look a certain way. But if the inner child, a child will just express whatever the emotion is to them. And
it's so
again,
true. It's
as
so true.
adults, you have to you can't just put that out there, but you have to have an awareness of yourself. This feels valid to me in the moment. You know what I mean? And not feel pressured to act a certain way, because that's what all adults do. They feel a pressure to look a certain way and be a certain stiff upper lip, they say. And we want to move to a time where it looks like chaos energy. If we invite people to just be what they feel and feel it is, that could seem insane. And I'm not talking about that. It's mastery to within yourself. Like, I have to understand my sensitivity often. Here's what people are saying because of my human design and my astrology and all the rest of it. hears people say a thing and sometimes wants to take it a certain way. And I learn now, I can see when it's happening. I can't necessarily stop myself from having the thought, but I don't put it onto them. And I don't tell myself, oh, Laura, you're wrong. I just go, that's not what's happening, but it's acceptable that your whole makeup is showing you that's the feeling. So I feel it without making it them wrong. And I say, that's just my like my physical makeup, my emotional, mental, and everything. And I give myself permission to go, either one day it'll totally shift, and there have been big shifts, or if it doesn't, that's my individual quirkiness, but I don't let it label the person or the situation. I just accept and I sort of move through it with an openness. So it's not chaos energy, chaos in terms of allowing what is there to be and to be uninhibited, but it also has a level of responsibility and maturity. But you can't tell yourself what you feel just in order to make other people happy or to
I
be.
love that. Yeah, I love that framework. I love how you I'm I'm just kind of taking a moment to take in what you said because I really hope that people even go back and listen to it again because it was really wise how you're in that situation, you're experiencing something, and in that moment you have the awareness that something is moving through you.
Mm.
And that just that place right there, if we can for people to get to that place where they can recognize is going to save like so much unnecessary turbulence or distortion.
Mm.
That's a skill at self mastery, like to get to that place where you can recognize in that moment has nothing to do with the other person. This is just your own quirkiness. Like I just want you to acknowledge in this moment. That's a level of self mastery, and that's beautiful. Like that for me is like that the new human energy to have that awareness in the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely, and I used to have this happen where something will happen in the external world, and it's like the divine puts just an energy of calm over me, and I don't react, and I go, it's just something comes through, and it just minimizes it for flow, and I go home later. This is in the past, and I'd be like, why didn't I say that? Why didn't I say that? But just some divine energy would come on, and I would, those times when the divine speaks through you and you
Oh
don't
yeah.
plan it, and it would
Yeah.
help to remove me from just inflaming it because it's the other person's journey. So there's been that energy too. But then when, on the backside of it, I'd always say to myself, but you're wrong for coming home and feeling so wrong. But no, it's not. If I'm not harming someone else, I'm allowing myself to express. And who knows why I need to express all of those intricacies. But it certainly is a journey. And I would just give people permission to not dump it on someone else, but also not tell themselves that their reaction means that they're wrong. It's such a fine discussion, isn't it? It's such a high.
Like I feel like I want to share like an example to like when I blended families here and just a little bit of a background. Uh, I grew up in an environment where it wasn't safe for me to express myself. So I learned to really suppress. And so in this space now, the partner that I'm with now, I know is helping me heal a lot of inner child things and allowing for me to express when I'm disappointed or when I'm not happy. And I had a moment where he was sharing some news, and I was like, I was having two conversations happening at the same time. I saw this beautiful, healed, higher self come out, and she's like, you're going to go through a temper tantrum right now, and it's okay. She goes, you weren't allowed to have these. And so now your partner's holding the space for you so that you can irrationally break down about why you're not happy about what's happening right now. And that's exactly what happened. I'm a grown woman who, in that moment, started talking very irrationally and was very hurt. And it wasn't, I knew it wasn't rational. And I was explaining to him as I was crying and having a somatic letting go
Mm.
of this experience that was never safe before for me to have. And because he held the space for me to be irrational for that, I don't know, it felt like 10 hours, but it was probably 30 seconds, but it was Like I felt so embarrassed. I felt so vulnerable. I felt so seen. And I knew that and I told him, I said, I know that what I'm saying right now is irrational, but please just let me say it because I need to get this out of my body. I need to feel like life isn't fair right now and that I don't like what you're doing and I don't agree with this perspective and I want it to be different. I know it can't be different, but I want it to be different. And so I just had that moment where I could just move it all through. And let me tell you, after I had that experience, I accepted it. I was fine. I wasn't even bothered by it. And then I went back and did some reflection for myself. And I was like, that's how the inner child moves through things. And
Mm.
if in the past, I would always push it down and then I would have resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wouldn't really be okay with something. And every time it came up, I'd have a charge in my body. But because I gave myself permission to have the full expression and I was in a safe space like
Mm.
with my partner and I'm not encouraging people to do that in the grocery store if they don't get the item that's on sale at the price they want. Like I'm not saying to do that, but find the right time and place to let your body learn that
Mm.
it's safe because I've only ever had to have two of them and now my body regulates itself. Okay, that's why I'm trying to get to. Find the right environment to have the experience and be witnessed and be seen. And then the body learns, wait a second, wow, we're safe. It's okay. It discharges something. I don't have fancy words for it other than I've had two temper tantrums with my partner. And since then, I'm less volatile when I'm not in control of something or if something comes and it's not my cup of tea or I'm disapproving of it or it's not something for me. I'm just like, well, okay, that's just the way it is.
And that's amazing. That's that permission thing. I feel like with an actual child, when you give them lots of rules and things, part of them is going to want to break against that and push against it. And so you've just expressed that by giving yourself permission to do it, there's less of a need. So it was a quality, not quantity. And because you were free to be vulnerable, and I want to circle back to the vulnerability, you've taken those restrictions off yourself, and people think, oh, if there's no restrictions, it'll just be insane. But the truth was that was what was most needed, and then there's no need to push against those boundaries. So sometimes more rules make kids want to push more, and conversely, less rules actually get people to step into like a level of, I don't know, like more wisdom somehow. And so I love
Mm.
what you said about allowing the body. We've got to allow ourselves permission. And we think, oh, but if I do that, it's taking the lid off Pandora's box, you know? No, because the body is wise. You talked about it in the last session. Body is wise, but it needs the permission and it will keep circling you back around. So I just think that's incredible what you just said. And the
Yeah.
right environment, the right audience. Sometimes we,
Yeah, needs to be the right it needs to be a safe place.
mm. And
Yeah.
the vulnerability. So that's what I was thinking too. I have to allow myself to be vulnerable. And this is for all of those people who are strong out there, who are used to maybe not being vulnerable. Just see if you can give yourself some baby steps, again, with the right person and the right environment, the right friend. Maybe just open yourself up a bit because I have found that when I do that, it does give me a lot of freedom. It's freaking terrifying on some level because of in the past when I did it naturally and the world or other people went, oh, and so I want to remember those times. But it's natural for me to just want to be truthful, which to me is kind of vulnerability. They're married, it's the same thing. And so giving yourself permission to find the right time and the space to be vulnerable is so important. And then you need to you'll see what comes back to you from the right people. But even without it, just taking the risk to be, even in the times when I did it without thinking because it's just who I am and the reaction was something I didn't really like, I still felt a sense of freedom of I needed to do that for me. If I had but done anything else, I would have betrayed myself. And that's more about them than it is about me.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's something about being vulnerable. Children are vulnerable, like in terms of they'll share that they'll show you their most beloved, whatever it is, and it might be a twig or something that it means nothing to you. So the beauty of the vulnerability of the open heart and just allowing yourself to put that out in your world. And even if it doesn't feel
Oh.
good, first of all, I wouldn't encourage you to stop. I would just refine and I would sit with spirit and I'd be like, okay, spirit, that hurt. So can you just show me and help me? But the next time it would sort of come through unbidden from me. And again, I would have to allow that vulnerability, because if we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we're always telling ourselves to, dust yourself up and cope. And that's not what we want the child or the original self to do. We want to be strong and vulnerable and everything all at once, the multidimensional being that you had talked about before.
Yeah. And I love what you said, to be vulnerable with an open heart. And, as you were saying that, I could just see and feel all of these people listening going, yeah, but my heart is guarded, and
Mm.
I can just feel how so many people are so armored right now, because you imagine being so open and vulnerable in this world, and then that first time that you go to school and someone doesn't like you, or they make a comment about you, and then as we go through those different developmental stages, each layer of that stage, oh, she's comforting me now, each each level of that stage armors us more and more. So I can feel or sense people listening going, well, but how do I open my heart?
Mm.
So i'm I'm just, I feel like I'm passing it back to you, Laura, in that sense of, what do you do to keep, and is it okay that I ask you this question? Yeah.
Yes, I love being
Yeah.
asked questions.
Oh, good. Okay. What do you do to keep your heart open?
It's a willingness to be vulnerable with myself to any of the emotions that aren't particularly nice or feel frightening to me too about life, like all the aspects of things that I feel frightened about in life. Do you know what I mean? So I handle stuff and I'm very strong, but allowing myself those times where I've handled it, but a part of my body went, no, I didn't like that. So then a little bit of examination of, it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay that I handled that situation, but part of me didn't want it to happen and part of me took it as a wound. So then I want to look at the wound and I want to go, okay, what is that? So for me, it's a sense of self-examination, but it's not like something like a mad scientist, like very strong and knives and everything. But it is a willingness to sit in that rawness and say, okay, I didn't like that feeling, but it was there for a reason. And then the other part of the heart is, we said this earlier, when that's the emotional part of my human self and the emotion. But when I connect to my heart and my heart field, and I do this all the time, every day, not even have to touch it, it's a sense of sanctuary and calm. It doesn't matter what was said or what was done. I have just always been able to feel that rightness within. So I connect to that and that helps to nurture me. So when all of this is that, and then the inner emotional stuff is crazy, it's like an ocean. And I just try and drop beneath those, like the choppiness in here. And sometimes I've had times where I feel like the divine beings or the angels in some way, the guidance, betrayed me. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a
Mhm.
human, it's a silliness. But sometimes I feel like I can't automatically just pray to you. I pray all the time. And I think, oh, I don't even feel like I want to pray to a divine being. I just go into the heart, and it's what you talked about, like a stillness. You talked about a deprivation meditation that you do, and I like to go in and imagine that I'm in the cave of my heart and just be there and just imagine and get my body prone if I can physically, or imagine it prone like on the earth, because I feel like we come as really sensitive beings and there's so much need. We don't give ourselves maybe enough comfort as we would need. And it seems to me, it's always seemed maybe that was weak to do. But as I get older, I've learned no, I can do so much the more gentle I am with myself and the more that I am willing to drop beneath what's troubling me into that all eternal sort of essence that is. And I can always do that. But at the same time, I can be in deep fear of something that's happening. So for me, it's kind of like this. I feel a bit like the journey of a child, that it can be both one thing and the other thing the next day, the next moment, and not letting myself say, well, that's crazy. You can't be, that's too fluid. You know what I mean? So I would say that it's about a willingness to look, and when I feel hurt, I want to take the opportunity to go, what does that mean to me? Not about the other person, but also have strong boundaries. And sometimes I do have to move away from places or relationships because I can tell that that is just going to keep me stuck at a level of, they're never going to come on the journey. And I'm always wanting to refine myself and be the best version of me that I can, and move through challenges and not stay stuck because it seems known. This is the thing. It seems known. So,
Mm.
I don't know if I've answered your question, but that's what came.
Yeah, well, I just want to feel like for the people who are listening, who might feel like it's not as easy for them to
Mm,
be in a space of open heart and vulnerability. Like these are quite big asks for people who, in a world right now, find it hard to trust others or even to share, how they really feel.
mm.
Some people are still working through that energy of, you know, I don't really want to do this or go there, but I'm doing it anyways, like out of,
Yeah.
some sort of sense of duty or something, or wanting to be liked, that whole people pleasing thing.
I would say too that at this time on Earth, with the way energy has shifted and the things that are all the way systems are breaking down and the uncertainty, it is actually one of the best times to try something totally out there for you. Energy, whether you believe in it or not, is so supportive right now of newer frequencies and stepping into the new that I do believe with intention, even just as I said before, going outside and looking at the sky, that's another way I connect to my heart through nature and just being willing to say, I want to open my heart. Like, I open my heart and feel it if you can't feel it, or just be outside in nature as though you're, strengthening a muscle that maybe is so weak you can't even view it in the body. Having an intention to say, well, everything is inside out and upside down right now on Earth, and we all know that. But there's a reason for it to free us from old structures and old ways of being. So, what better time to experiment with something you've never done before than in these
Mm,
unprecedented times? So, I
yeah.
think it's about one, loving yourself, giving yourself loving care. That connects to your heart. Doing anything you can in nature for even a short period, that gets you out of the thinking mind. And then doing something kind and loving for yourself, the way you might bring an unexpected treat for a child, do something unexpected and loving for you, for yourself. Treat yourself, because that means that you love yourself. And as you affirm love for yourself, your heart will open and you'll start to feel more love for others. Because the biggest problem on earth is the fact that people are struggling with not loving themselves enough. And if you can't love you, you certainly are going to have trouble loving others. And then this causes all the fractious behavior.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's love. It's love for the self. And I talked about this in another episode with another person. It's not selfishness. It's just loving yourself enough to say, I even feel like this is too hard for me to do. I don't want to open my heart, but you've been honest. So honesty is also self-love, I think.
I love that. Um, I'm just kind of feeling into that. And, when people are connecting into that heart space and even just being able to catch a breath in it, like I would say most people right now are shallow breathers, like just, wanting to just catch a breath. At this point, they're just like, okay, now I'm breathing into that space, almost feels stuck. And I feel like it can tie into like that unresolved grief energy that we talked about in the earlier part one of our talk around Earth's grief energy that's moving through us. It almost feels like our heart center, the energy center, is really being used and bogged down right now. So it's like so important, when we look at like even equipment or machinery, if we use it too hard, it can stop working, or, it needs to go in for maintenance. And I'm even noticing within my heart space now, I know we're taking a little bit of a tangent, but we'll bring it back around. But sometimes I find my energy center in my heart space, even though I'm feeling good and I'm flowing, sometimes I can feel the breath getting stuck a bit.
Mhm.
And I feel like there's still an energy in there that I'm kind of like moving through and working through as I really fully allow my heart to be open. Like this, I feel this is a new way of being for
Mm,
people,
mm,
like allowing the heart space to kind of take center stage and learn, that dance of coherence between the brain and the heart, and this space of I'm a feeling being versus I'm a thinking
mm.
person. I'm a feeling being. versus a thinking doer. But that's how I want to say it. And I don't know if how you feel about this right now, but even perhaps just inviting people right now who are listening to put hand on heart and see how they feel about what it would feel like to connect into that open heart in that vulnerable space while they're in this safe container with us.
Mm.
And if we invite people to close their eyes and put hand on heart and to just breathe with us. So if we were to create a container for this of safety, for people to just get a feeling as they breathe into that space, and if they can hold like even a visual of what it could look like to experience that with another or to show up in that way and to just see how their body reacts to that energy could be like a really good starting point.
And it's the creativity and imagination. So coming back to the child, children have incredible imagination, and I believe that's their connection to source. So I liken spiritual practice to that kind of creative energy. So if you can just imagine, visualize, intend, or pretend colors that might come in,
Mm.
it can be really helpful, just allowing your mind to just flow free, intending or imagining that you could breathe energy from the heart of the universe or like the stars into you. It's that creative energy that children have, the imagination. So we often say, pretend, imagine, allow yourself to expand your mind into those realms of imagination, spiritual energy.
And
And you
that's the divine child. That's there's a part of the brain that governs imagination that children are so connected to. So it's like as we use that part of the brain again, it's like we're bringing it back online and
mm,
firing new neurons in that space so that we can dream weave a new future because now we've engaged back with that ability to visualize and uh, experience and feeling and sensing what it would be like to live as a heart-centered being and to because we have mirror neurons in our brain. And so when we use visualization and we can seed what it looks like and then we bring it in and draw it into our emotional body and we can feel
mm.
what that looks like, then we create a vibration in our field which then allows for us to align to that. So then, for those who are listening who are like, I don't even know how to open my heart or I don't know what to do, I wanted to give them, that opening or space because I believe or feel that it's like ready or not, here I come, the heart's cracking. Like, so I don't want people to get caught off guard and go, I'm not ready. Like, what is happening? The armor's coming down, whether
Yeah.
people like it or not, it's coming down. So,
Yeah.
and this is why we're here doing these podcasts and sharing and connecting so that, at the right moment, at the right time, someone's going to hear this and it's going to be exactly what they need to hear in that now moment.
The comfort of you guiding people to just even try to connect to the heart, because the heart is not the muscle. It's not even just the heart chakra. We're talking about a field that is really, in many ways, it seems limitless when you're within it, and its ability to affect others and the world is really above and beyond what humans understand. It's an energy thing. And so I agree with you. The time is now. That's what I meant before. There's no going back now. We've gone through the gateway. This is how it's going to be. So give yourself permission to understand the old ways are leaving and focusing on the breath. Just imagine you could breathe into your own heart. And then I also think when you talked about the brain, I loved that because another thing I love to do is the repatterning of the brain, of imagining it's like a field of clean grass. Do you know what I mean? Like just
Mm-hmm.
breathing. The heart will send energy through the whole body. I mean, out into the fields too. But you could imagine if you can think that a heart is filled with love, or it could be, you could imagine your heart sending love to parts of your body that feel constricted or feel sad. The heart will keep going because people say, I feel like my heart is broken. That's an emotion. The heart itself can never break. It is always there. It's always that purity source connection. It's always there for you. It will help you to heal perceived heartbreaks, but never ever think that there's something wrong or deficient with the
Mm.
heart field or heart space. It's just simply not true.
Oh, I love that. I love that awareness for people. Yeah,
You can be wounded. You can
yeah,
be wounded.
it's the wounded. It's like the fragmented reality that's keeping us, like we keep looping in the fragmented reality that's keeping us from the all knowing. Like it's right there. So, right here. And I feel like some people feel like this hero's journey has to be so laborious and hard and, like we're climbing Mount Everest. But I'm here to say, and I feel like you're here to say, that the divine child can make it really fun and easy too. Like that's an aspect of this. We're multidimensional, and in that space, yes, there's going to be days where things feel hard, but then there's also a levity to this journey,
Mm.
and we can tap into that, we can access it, and we can invite it in to create a grace and an ease.
Yes, invite it in. If you want to be in this space, just make a commitment to yourself with us holding the space to invite that in as best serves you now. It's making that commitment, opening to the divine, and they will help you at the level that you can receive. So be willing to invite and allow.
Yeah.
Be the new
Mm.
human. We are the change. It's like what is it? We're the healing that we're waiting for. We're the change that we're waiting for. We really need to remember that and empower ourselves that there's no small act of kindness or even prayer or altar work or spiritual energy or just human kindness. No small act ever goes unnoticed by the spiritual realms, and it builds to a critical mass. So remember that too, no matter what it looks like. This is the guidance I always get. No matter what it looks like on the surface, things are much better than they seem. So see if you can
Yeah.
let that land in your heart,
Mm.
bypass the mind. This is what the divine wants us to know.
Mm. There's something else that's coming into my awareness now too, for people, like to just hold in their awareness that every thought, every belief, every emotion, everything that they're perceiving in this now moment gets held in the field. So it's like we, you know, as we awaken and move into this, it does require a bit more responsibility, in the sense that you are co-creating with a a collective field of consciousness. So it's like, in that space, what are you contributing? Like if you feel like you want to do your part, the part could be to be of pure heart and pure mind. It could be that simple. Like, and if that's the practice that you exercise, give yourself that permission to be in every day. And then every time you feel a thought that isn't serving the highest good of all, just call yourself out on it and go clear, cancel, delete, or cancel, cancel, and place a new thought into the field. Like, sometimes people feel like they have to do so much more to save or heal the world. And I feel like, if just a handful of us can be more mindful of what we think and feel and how we contribute to the field. What do they say? It's like 144,000. If we can get
Yeah.
144,000 beings to hold a certain frequency, that can impact the 8 billion people.
It sounds crazy, but it's not. It is the ultimate thing. It is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think that's important to what you were saying, then just bring yourself back to alignment. And it also might be that you need to remove yourself from reading certain things or having certain discussions with others. And part of your role as a light worker might be to encourage people away from certain human discussions about the technicality and the logical, which there's no logic anymore, let's face it, with the way systems are run. Of being the person who encourages like more of an open-hearted discussion about something that's enjoyable. If you bring back that focus, it's like we're tilling the soil of this new earth, which is
Mm.
happening now, with a focus on the unseen. There's all the seen and all that stuff, but if we focus on the small things and the beauty and what we love and just being present to life, and whatever lights you up, that is actually important with all the face of all the suffering that's out there. That is what's helping to till the soil so that we become receptive. It's that tipping point energy. So never ever discount, and never ever discount like when you have your dark nights of the soul in and around your good times. If you're offering that kind of in service to the all, you kind of know you've got to go through it, but you're asking like that be used and utilized as energy by the divine, then there's no sort of no small act can ever be unheeded or unnecessary. So you need to remove yourself where you need to remove yourself. Be like a light. I don't know if people notice times when they're friends, you might just say something off the cuff and it really means something to them, or you bring them something, or you just be in that space of like a child of immediate and curious and open-hearted. And you'll find you can even sort of ask your inner child, like the original self one, what it wants you to do on any given day. Like, what does it want to eat now? What does it want? Does it want to watch? What does it want to read? Give yourself permission to be in a state of play, no matter what you're reading in the papers or whatever. Cultivate that energy because what we focus on grows. And there are some
Yeah.
issues that don't have human solutions to them. The solution is to allow more divine presence into us and divine light upon it, and not to try and, as Australia we say, nut it out with our logical mind.
Right. Oh, and as you were sharing that, like a piece kind of came in for me too, like with the divine child, is that they're so empathetic. You know, when somebody else is in a state of suffering, they're not holding judgment. They're immediately in that open, vulnerable heart space. And they're like, are you okay? Do you need a hug? You know, like it's like remembering our humanness with each other, and that we're not all going to agree. We're not all going to have the same perspective because each one of us is experiencing life through our own personal lens. And our lens is needed here, but it's not here for us to like impose on another. It's here for us to radiate and share and allow for other people to receive it in the way that it's intended for them, you know? And so as we move about the world with those open hearts and in that space of vulnerability, when we're engaged with that empathy, it will be a lot easier to hold that frequency because we're not going to be afraid of the judgment or
Yeah.
someone telling us or somebody negating our feelings about something or diminishing them. They'll just hold the space and that feeling of, oh, I feel that pain with you, you know, so you feel held in that space.
And when you help another person in that way, even a simple way, it always helps to raise your frequency. That's the other thing. It's about the giving and receiving. It's its own gift. So being present for another person also gives positive energy to you. So it's about generating that positive energy. And I love that you brought up the magical child. And I just think I'd love to leave people with just with that idea that there's a purity to original self, which is the inner child, which is just it just is. It's connected to source. It doesn't question. It's creative, it's got joy, and that any healing that we're doing and any aspect of wounding can be supported by this joyful presence within, this kind of wild child energy. And if you need to connect and you feel you were never that child, like I used to run on the beach and like have my arms way back, like climb trees and all that. Some people haven't even had that experience as a child now, but give yourself the gift of just being free. Try and find freedom for yourself now as an adult, connecting or imagining to what a child might do if they felt free. And imagine that you've got this guardian, this inner part of you that is really strong. Just see if you can feel into that protection and assistance. And whatever healing is required, I would just want to say it doesn't mean that the child is wounded. There's an original essence of you, and you can always connect to that. And it starts with the heart.
Oof,
It's
I love that.
unpainted. Yeah.
That was perfect, Laura.
Thank you, Bahia. Just absolutely beautiful. Thank you for bringing this idea again through, plucking it out of like my thinking field. It's been something that keeps coming up and I want to talk about. Thank you for guiding the different little bits that you've done, the container of safety for people. And may you, when you listen to this at any time, know that receiving our love light essence, our like golden future light in this bubble here, that you can receive that and hopefully then take it back into your life and shine it in some way, radiate it and share it.
Mm. Thank you, Laura. It was so fun to just talk and play with you. And I love that, we don't really, we haven't, when I first met you, I said, this is our souls know each other, but it's our first time meeting in person. And just the flow of our conversation, it just feels like I've known you for so long. So thank you for inviting me and creating a space for people like ourselves to be able to share.
Yeah, you cannot underestimate the connection of a soul resonance. You don't need to explain it. Just feel the joy of receiving that. It's
Yeah.
powerful. It's so powerful. So yes, I'm so grateful for this opportunity and for you taking the time. And may this send blessings. When we're online like this, I just feel it going through all of the technology for everybody to digest in whatever way works, if they hear it or not. That's my intention, that the light goes forward. So thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for here.
Yes.
Thank you to Luna, who was here earlier, and
Oh,
your cat,
yeah.
she gave us some.
She's sleeping by my feet. And I just feel guided to just have us all just visualize the most beautiful like ray of golden light emanating from our hearts and kind of shooting out like Care Bears, like just across the world, and just see that golden light just like lighting up these luminous, just beautiful cosmic waves as we, send a new frequency into the earth field to allow for other beings to be able to feel a sense of like peace and harmony within themselves, to step into their own agency, to feel comfortable to be with their divine child, their divine essence, their authentic light, and to just share, become a community again and open ourselves and know that we're not alone.
We are not alone.
No.
On that note, thank you. Let everyone feel that for another breath. Thank you so much. All right, we'll leave it there with you. Thank you, Bahia, again for your time. It's been beautiful. And many blessings, everybody. And we'll see you again next time. Love and light for now.